and the moment I stepped out through the front doors of the building, I saw them, a line of black sedans parked along the curb. A group of men in dark suits climbing out and heading toward the entrance. The glass door of SSS Technologies slid shut behind me with a clinical, final hiss, cutting off the sound of their laughter like a knife through silk. The March wind bit at my cheeks, sharp and cold, carrying the faint tang of rain that had been threatening all morning. I didn't hurry. I walked at a steady, unhurried pace, my shoes clicking against the polished concrete sidewalk, each step feeling lighter than it had in 20 years, lighter, and yet hollow, as if my chest had been carved out and left empty save for a quiet, smoldering fire. Behind me, the towering glass skyscraper that had been my life's work loomed, its reflective surface warping the skyline into a twisted, unrecognizable mess. That building had been built brick by brick, late night by late night, callous by callous. I'd started with nothing but a beat-up pickup truck, a tool belt, and a baby girl swaddled in a tattered blanket, staring at a rundown warehouse on the edge of town and daring to believe I could turn it into something that would keep her safe. Now it was a trophy for the people who'd destroyed me once before, blind to the poison they'd just clutched in their greedy hands. $80 million in debt. Not just ordinary debt, predatory loans, supplier liens, a class action lawsuit from a failed prototype that had been buried under layers of corporate paperwork, a ticking time bomb I'd hidden in plain sight for the last 6 months ever since the core project imploded. Laura thought she'd stolen a golden goose. Bob thought he'd finally climbed the ladder he'd resented me for building. Marta thought she'd traded a rapist father for a real mother and a life of luxury. They had no idea they'd just signed their names to a noose. I kept walking, my hands stuffed in the pockets of my worn suit jacket, the only thing of value I had left besides the clothes on my back. I'd left my wallet, my watch, even my wedding ring, the cheap band I'd never taken off even after Laura's betrayal. On my desk, a silent middle finger to the life they'd stolen. The street was busy, pedestrians rushing past with their heads down, oblivious to the man beside them who just lost everything, and yet gained a strange, terrible freedom. I didn't feel angry anymore. The rage that had burned in my veins for 3 years in prison, for 20 years raising a daughter who'd never truly seen me, had cooled into something colder, sharper, unshakable. Revenge wasn't a scream or a punch. It was patience. It was letting them drown in the ocean they'd begged to swim in. A block from the office, the black sedans I'd spotted earlier rumbled past, their tinted windows hiding the men inside. I didn't flinch. I didn't even glance their way. I knew exactly who they were. I'd been expecting them for weeks, ever since I'd made a single phone call from a burner phone in a dirty gas station bathroom, a call to a man I'd met once years ago, when I'd been hauling bricks and he'd been a debt collector with a code. He owed me a favor, a big one. I kept walking until I reached the subway station, descending the concrete stairs into the dim, humming underground. The smell of diesel and cheap coffee filled the air, a stark contrast to the sterile luxury of my former office. I bought a single ticket with the loose change in my pocket, the coins clinking against the turnstile, and waited for the train. For the first time in decades, I had nowhere to be, no deadlines to meet, no daughter to protect. It was quiet, too quiet. My mind drifted back to the day I'd walked out of prison, 3 years after Laura's lie had put me there. The sky had been gray, just like today, and I'd had nothing but the clothes on my back and a crumpled piece of paper with the address of the orphanage. I'd spent every penny I'd saved before prison on a bus ticket across the state. My